I would like you all to shut your eyes for a moment. Take yourself to a beautiful, arid land. In the north and west, smell the grazing grasslands and see the chickpea and fava bean crops stretching for miles. Your mother and grandmother tend those crops like many women before. Travel into a nearby town, or even further to Damascus, the oldest continually inhabited city in the world. Step off of the street and midday heat through a nondescript door and find yourself in an inner courtyard with a fountain, or bahra in Arabic, meaning little sea. The buildings surrounding the courtyard, ingeniously designed to be inhabited in the lower levels in the summer heat or the upper levels in the winter cold. Or step into a mosque, one of the 20 still in the old city, or one of the 30 Christian churches. Centuries ago, Christians and Muslims even worshipped in the same space. The Cathedral of St. John doubled as a mosque to the Muslim residents. Now, imagine your life in that old and beautiful land being completely shattered. You can no longer teach, practice law or civil engineering or medicine, because your home, your hospital, your workplace has been bombed by perhaps your own government's forces, or Russian or Daesh, or another competing interest for your homeland. You witnessed your 14-year-old son's public execution by Islamic rebels because he made a lighthearted comment about the Prophet Muhammad. You picked through the rubble to find the body of your infant daughter. These are the people that I and my Team Vermont colleagues met on the island of Lesbos, Greece, this January, after they had risked their lives and the lives of their babies and grandparents to flee across the piece of Aegean Sea between Turkey and Lesbos. Just in January alone, nearly 300 people drowned in those waters, fleeing the terrors in their homeland. Along with many other volunteers from around the world, including a group of Palestinians living in Israel, we provided medical care at the shores of Lesbos as boats arrived, as well as in the refugee camp on Afghan Hill, Moria. This is the largest mass exodus of refugees since World War II. More than 52,000 refugees and migrants crossed the eastern Mediterranean to reach Europe from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and northern African countries in the first 4 weeks of January, more than 35 times as many as attempted the crossing in the same period last year. More than 1.66 million Syrians have fled into Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, and Greece, Greece being the gateway to the European Union up what was known as the Balkan route. A huge majority of those fleeing have been children, and many of these children are now missing and feared to be the targets of trafficking. Many refugees are fleeing other countries, such as men from Afghanistan who interpreted for the U.S. military and are now being executed for their work. Kristalina Georgieva, Commissioner for the Humanitarian Aid and Civil Protection Department of the European Commission, said, "It is so disappointing to see the international community sleepwalking into this disaster." Ms. Georgieva's comment is an understatement. While Team Vermont and many other volunteers could only help for a fraction of their epic journey to find a safe haven and eventually maybe even a home, we saw enough of these beautiful people and heard enough of their stories to have impacted us forever. I am weeping again as I write this and wish I could share with you in person. And I am outraged. Outraged that Turkish traffickers made the refugees pay 1,000 to 2,000 euros and sometimes more to shove too many of them into the flimsy rubber boats at gunpoint. At gunpoint because the refugees were justifiably terrified, but also had no choice. Outraged that they made them buy life jackets that were discovered to be fake and stuffed with materials that could only help them and their babies drown. Horrified that the traffickers threw their belongings overboard, including critical medications, to make more room and sell more space on the floating death traps. Outraged that the European Union now has paid Turkey to stop the flow of refugees, a stopping which will happen by any means necessary, no matter how brutal. I'm heartbroken, again, to hear that just the other day, several hundred more refugees drowned on their way to Italy because the route from Turkey to Greece and up through the Balkan route is now closed. Even though it was another long, treacherous journey, often at night through the woods in winter, It was still a route through Macedonia, Croatia, and on towards safe refuge in Germany, Austria, and other EU countries. And the war rages on while the world watches and shuts its doors. Have we learned nothing from seeing the body of Aylan Kurdi laying on the shores of Turkey? Have we learned nothing about the devastating impact of US intervention in Iraq and Afghanistan? Generosity is expansive. I believe that a large part of my United States is a generous country. It is not the United States of Chris Christie, who said he would not even let a 5-year-old Syrian in. It is not the country of Donald Trump, who thinks that we should send all Muslims, whether they are US Americans or not, and there are many Americans, back to where? We can do better. We can organize in our own communities and talk about what refugee resettlement would look like for us. We can elect political leaders who are not ignorant and cold-hearted. We can do the work that I am so grateful that you all are doing to raise awareness and to use our own liberty to create deep and powerful change for those who do not have such liberty. In closing, words from a song that Missy Higgins wrote, and you should all look for her YouTube video that uses drawings from refugee children, called "O Canada." He was carried from the water by a soldier, and the picture screams 1,000 different words. He was running from the terror with his father, who once believed that nothing could be worse. So he'd handed a man 2,000 precious dollars, the way you'd rest a bird in a lion's open jaw. And he told his boys that Canada was waiting. There was hope upon her golden shores. But at night he said a quiet prayer to the wind. "O Canada, if you can hear me now, won't you open up your arms towards the sea? O Canada, if you can help me out, all I ever wanted was a safe place for my family." Well, the days were long, but the nights were even longer, and the babies never left their mother's side. But the boat was small, and the waves were getting stronger, and they began to fear they'd not survive. So the father said, "We gotta hold each other tight. I'm not losing everything I love tonight. And we've come so far, I know that out there somewhere, there's a place where we won't have to fear for our lives." But as he held onto the side of the boat, he looked up at the sky. "O Canada, if you can hear me now, won't you open up your arms towards the sea? O Canada, if you can help me out. The sea is turning, and I think we're going down. Anyone, if you can hear me now, won't you open up your heart towards me? Anyone, please help us out. All we ever wanted was a safe place for my family. There's a million ways to justify your fear. There's a million ways to measure out your words. But the body of Aylan being laid upon the sand, tell me, how do you live with that?" Thank you.